Reformed Church.
I was thinking about joy and rejoicing specifically, right? And there are reasons why we think, and people think a lot of times, that it's okay, like, to lament and to be down a bit because something has happened, or because of something that you did, or something that you said to someone, whatever. There's different reasons why people feel, you feel almost kind of justified in feeling the way you feel because of what you're seeing, of what happened, right? But that is obviously the very thing. When I started thinking about joy and all that, I kept going back, obviously, to the same thing. Joy is a fruit that we have. In other words, it's something that we have in us already. You possess joy. It's not something that you have to acquire. It's not something that you need to get. It's something that you already possess. It's part of your inheritance. Like, we look at a lot of things as our inheritance, but joy is one of the things that's part of your inheritance, right? And it is something that no one obviously can take from you. Like, no person, no matter what they do to you or what you do to them or whatever happens, no one can take your joy from you, right? Just read a couple things to you real quick. But this I want to read to you, and I don't know if we can bring this up, that's fine. And if not, I can read it for you. In 1 Peter 1, 1 Peter 1:8, and I'll turn there myself. 1 Peter 1:8, and if we could read this one in, we'll read it in New King James, and then I want to read it in the LSV. But it says, whom having not seen you love, speaking about the Lord, that we having not seen him yet we love him, right? Though now you do not see him, yet believing you rejoice, because, so obviously that shows that your joy or your rejoicing is from faith, right? Because as you believe the Lord in what he's done and what he's given to you, right? There is a perpetual reason, because of the fact that he never changes, for you to rejoice and for you to have joy, because there's nothing that you're missing. There's nothing that's broken with you. There's nothing that is amiss with you, right? You've been made perfect. Like, just consistently looking at, the way we've said it in the past, like really looking at your circumstance, right? You really see the condition that you're in, what you have, what you don't have, right? You can clearly see that. And so he says, yet believing, it says, you rejoice with joy inexpressible and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So if we can switch real quick to the literal standard version. Verse number 8 says, which is really cool the way it's worded here. He says, whom having not seen you love, in whom now believing, although not seeing, you are glad with unspeakable joy and have been filled with glory. Like, that's a real interesting thing, because all translations, like King James, New King James, most translations say that the joy unspeakable and full of glory, like it's the joy that's full of glory, right? But that's not exactly the way he words it here. He says, you are glad with unspeakable joy and have been filled with glory, receiving the outcome of your faith, salvation of your souls. So, I mean, it makes more logical, godly sense to me, like this translation, than the other one, because I never really did know what the heck is joy filled with glory. I mean, you can kind of explain that away, that you have, I don't know, that the joy is filled with glory because it's his glory, but I don't know. That never seemed very good. But here, when it says, that you're glad with unspeakable joy, right? Because of, like, knowing him, knowing who he is, you're believing in him, even though you don't see him, yet you have joy because you know him. And then it says, and have been, right, which I think that's speaking of us, and have been filled with glory, receiving the outcome of your faith. Now, it says there, the salvation of your souls. The cool thing is that, one thing that it says there, a little bit off topic, is that it says that we receive the outcome of our faith. Like, the conclusion of your faith, right, is for you to receive that which, in other words, for you to have that which you believe. So to be glorified, right? The Lord having justified us and made us righteous, and then having received the glory of God, having received His glory, it's so cool that it's saying there that we can have joy having been filled with His glory, which is really the outcome of our faith, right? The outcome of our faith is what we have. So there's nothing more that we'll receive because of our faith, right? There's nothing that we'll acquire later because of our faith, right? We have everything that we could ever receive, right? In other words, that's why I love him saying the conclusion of our faith, like the outcome of our faith, or the end of your faith, right? Some translations say the salvation of your souls. And then if we can go to, that was 1 Peter 8, right? 9. So yeah, can we run real quick just in New King James, John 16 and verse number 20. He says, most assuredly I say to you that you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice, and you will be sorrowful, I guess you would say, but your sorrow will be turned into joy. A woman, when she is in labor, has sorrow because her hour has come. But as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the anguish for joy that a human being has been born into the world. And obviously that is obviously the Lord talking about himself, because he says, therefore you now have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart will rejoice, and your joy no one will take from you. Right? So any sorrow that we have, right? And I know this is specifically also talking about the sorrow that they feel because of his departing. But the point that he's making there is, though, that our joy, because of us seeing him, even though we don't see him with our physical eyes right now, but are seeing him because of our faith in him and our knowledge of the Lord, that it says your heart will rejoice and your joy no one will take from you. Well, I was reading that, and that was good, and I was thinking about a lot of that, right? That my joy is in you, Lord, and I can rejoice because of everything that you've done, and just thinking about that. But still, had something nagging me in the back of my mind about, the things that people always say, but like, how do I stop thinking about what I did or what I said to this person, the offense that I bought them or whatever, this thing, I'm sad because, I'm being laid off, or whatever the case is, what people would be filled with sorrow over. And it was so cool. I'm sitting there just working today, and I remember I think I was right in the middle of a meeting, and just completely, my mind was not, it's not like I was praying or anything. I was just minding my business, and I felt the Lord ask me, give me the answer to that. He said, can you rejoice in me, though? Like, asking me that question, can you rejoice in me? Because, it's an interesting thing. Like, we get very self-focused, right? When you're filled with sorrow, you're thinking about yourself, right? What you're feeling. I mean, you're thinking about yourself, so you're feeling what you're feeling because of what you're seeing, right? But to have the Lord ask you, can you rejoice in me, though? Like, it's not just about, because it sounds very, I don't know, it's something that you've heard a lot, like, just put your mind on the Lord, and if you put your mind on Jesus, you can just see everything that he's done for you, and all of that is true. But it's just, the Lord has a way of asking questions sometimes that it's the same answer, right? That's a separate answer. It's just the way he makes you think about it. Well, can you rejoice in me, right? And when somebody asks you that, right? Like, I know that you're upset, but can you think about me, though? Instead of thinking about yourself, can you rejoice in me? It changes the dynamic of your thought process, because now it's not, obviously the idea is for us not to get caught in thinking about what we did, what we said, right, or what's going to happen possibly in the future, or what am I going to do, thinking about all that cause and effect stuff that we think about in our lives. But when he says, can you rejoice in me, then I thought, just when I heard that, I just said it. it felt like I said it out loud. I just said it really loud in my mind. I said, what are you looking at, right? Because it's what you're looking at. When you're looking at him, you can rejoice in him, right? When you're looking at him, you can rejoice in him. You can rehearse in your mind everything that you have. And you know, when it has to do even, let's say, with something that you've done, right? When you think about, like, Lord, but you know, how is this, you know, because you want to know that this is something that has, you know, this is going to stop. This is a temporary thing. This is not something that just continues and goes and goes. I don't just, you know, Lord, I didn't mean to insult this person, Lord, but you know, my temper has gotten the best of me, whatever, and that's why I said this, and I didn't mean to do it, right? Whatever it is, right? But you figure, you know, how is it that those things come to an end? Because they really do come to an end through the knowledge of Jesus, right? But the reason why that is the reason, right, is because when you're thinking about the Lord, what you're beholding, obviously, right? Miss Lindsay's song keeps coming to my mind, right? The loveliness of what I see, right? What you're beholding is him, what you remember, you're seeing not just your sufficiency, but you're seeing the exceeding greatness of what you possess. You're seeing the abundance of what's yours. You see what you have, right? So what I began to think about, it was just, and I'm going to stop here, but it was three things, right? One is, you know, can you rejoice in me, though, right? The though I added, right? But can you rejoice in me? And then my thought was, well, it's what you're looking at, right? What are you looking at? That is what makes you either rejoice or lament and sorrow, right? But then I thought about this. I always rejoice in you. Right? Like, in other words, the Lord saying to you, can you rejoice in me? Because I always rejoice in you. Always rejoice in you, right? Can you rejoice in me? Because I always rejoice in you. Listen to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse number 7. Deuteronomy 30, verse number 7. It says, also the Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you, and you will again obey the voice of the Lord and do all his commandments, which I command you today, obviously, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, right? Heart, soul, and mind also. But verse number 9 says, the Lord your God will make you abound in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, in the increase of your livestock, right? Because of your obedience of faith, right? He's saying, and in the produce, it says, of your land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over you. For the Lord again will rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers. So you see there that he said, I'll rejoice over you again, like I rejoiced over your fathers, because obviously, you know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he rejoiced over them because of their faith in him. Because in other words, like, when you rejoice over the Lord, he rejoices over you, right? When you rejoice over him and you see his value, right, and you receive that salvation because you see the value of God, because you see what he's provided you, you're rejoicing over the Lord. And when you rejoice over him, he says, I rejoice over you because I'm pleased with you because of what you've done. So, but it's a difficult thing sometimes for people to get into that thing, you know, because what they try to do is, I'm not feeling good. Okay, let me just go to thinking about, okay, Lord, what you have provided for me, what you have done. But there's something, I can't put my finger on it. There's something about the Lord just asking you, like if you're feeling different about yourself today, if you're depressed, if you're hurting, if you're upset, like, okay, I know what you're looking at that's making you like that, but can you rejoice in me, though? Right? Because I always rejoice in you. Like that right there, it just messed me up. I was just, it did something in my head. I don't, the having him ask that question that way, it was just a very good thing. So anyway, it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing just to recall, right? How much the Lord loves you and how he rejoices over you. And I tell you what, when you really look at it, I told Miss Kim and Pastor Mike the other day, I'm coming back from Lindsay's house. And man, I just got to thinking, like, man, how awesome it is to be to have people around you that believe like you do, that love the Lord like you love him. Like, that's, you know, like, it just, I don't know. I got I was kind of like jumping and kind of acting like a fool outside a little bit before I walked in the house. But But it's just, it is, you know, we're such blessed people. I mean, that's actually one of the things that I thought is like, man, I am so blessed. Like, just to think about, you know, what you have and what you possess, and to have people around you that you know have the same thing, but then they also know what they have. You know, it's just such a very cool thing, right?
We hope you enjoyed this message from Reformed Church. If you have, please share this with someone else and help us get this uncommon truth out to the world. If you'd like to support this good news, you can do so at reformedchurch.com/give. Also on our website, you can take advantage of our free messages, articles, and even full discipleship courses. Start reforming your mind now at reformedchurch.com.